She was beautiful, elegant, soft-spoken, the kind of woman people trusted instantly. Neighbors admired her. Men respected her. Women envied her confidence. Even elderly people in the community called her an angel. But behind that beautiful face was a secret so disturbing. It destroyed lives the moment the truth came out. And the terrifying part? The warning signs were there all along. People just ignored them, because beauty has a dangerous way of making people lower their guard. Tonight's story is not just about deception. It's about human weakness, blind trust, manipulation, and a painful lesson many adults over 40 learn too late. Not everyone who smiles at you means you well. Stay until the end, because the final lesson in this story may completely change how you trust people. Her name was Sophia. At 42 years old, Sophia looked like someone who had life perfectly together. Perfect hair, perfect smile, perfect manners. She volunteered at charity events, visited elderly neighbors, brought homemade food to people during holidays. To the outside world, she looked like kindness in human form. And people trusted her quickly, too quickly. That's one of the biggest mistakes adults make later in life. They assume age automatically brings wisdom, but age does not protect people from manipulation. In fact, many adults over 40 become easier to deceive because they stop expecting danger from certain types of people. Especially attractive people, especially polite people, especially people who appear successful. And Sophia understood this better than anyone. She knew exactly how to make people feel comfortable. She remembered birthdays, complimented people warmly, spoke gently, maintained eye contact. She knew how to make others feel important. And because of that, people ignored things they normally would question. That's how manipulation often begins. Not with fear, but with charm. Sophia moved into a quiet suburban neighborhood after her divorce. Within months, everyone knew her. She baked for neighbors, helped elderly residents with groceries, even watched children occasionally for busy parents. People described her as too good to be true. Ironically, they were right. One of the first people Sophia became close to was Margaret, a 61-year-old widow living alone. Margaret trusted easily, especially after losing her husband. Loneliness makes people emotionally vulnerable. That's another painful truth many adults avoid discussing. As people age, they often crave companionship more deeply. Someone to talk to, someone to trust, someone who makes them feel less alone. And manipulators recognize emotional loneliness immediately. Sophia visited Margaret almost daily. They drank tea together, shared personal stories, laughed for hours. Margaret eventually trusted Sophia with things she never told her own children: financial worries, health concerns, private family issues. And once trust became emotional, Sophia slowly gained access to something even more valuable: control. At first, the warning signs seemed small, very small. Margaret noticed Sophia sometimes asked unusual questions. How much did your husband leave you? Do your children visit often? Who handles your bank paperwork? But Sophia always smiled afterward, always softened the moment with kindness. And charm has a dangerous way of making red flags appear harmless. Soon, strange things started happening in the neighborhood. A missing necklace, money disappearing, private information somehow spreading quietly. But nobody suspected Sophia. Why? Because people don't judge attractive deception the same way they judge obvious danger. Humans naturally associate beauty with trustworthiness. And manipulative people know this. One neighbor even said, "She's too sweet to do something like that." That sentence would later haunt them all, because evil rarely introduces itself looking dangerous. Sometimes it arrives smiling beautifully. Behind closed doors, Sophia lived a completely different life. The caring woman everyone admired was actually drowning in debt. Years of reckless spending, secret gambling, luxury addiction, credit card fraud. But maintaining appearances mattered more to her than honesty. That's another dangerous lesson for adults. Some people would rather fake success than face reality, and fake lifestyles often lead to desperate decisions. Sophia began manipulating lonely people emotionally. Mostly older adults, widows, divorced men, retired couples. People who trusted easily because they wanted connection. She borrowed money repeatedly. Sometimes she repaid small amounts just to build credibility. That's how long-term manipulators operate. They gain trust slowly, then exploit it gradually. And the scariest part? Most victims defend the manipulator even while being used, because nobody wants to admit they were deceived, especially older adults who pride themselves on experience. Pride blinds people, and Sophia understood human pride perfectly. Everything changed one rainy afternoon. Margaret's daughter, Claire, visited unexpectedly. While helping organize paperwork, Claire noticed unusual bank withdrawals. Large ones, repeated transfers, strange signatures. At first, Margaret defended Sophia immediately. She would never do that. She's like family. She cares about me. But Claire kept digging. Then came the horrifying discovery. Sophia had manipulated multiple people in the neighborhood. Not just Margaret, several elderly residents. Some had lost thousands. Others had given Sophia access to personal accounts. One retired man had even changed part of his will because he trusted her so deeply. The beautiful, caring woman everyone admired had built an entire life around emotional manipulation. And suddenly, the neighborhood began connecting years of ignored warning signs. The missing money, the emotional dependency, the constant charm, the carefully crafted kindness. It wasn't generosity, it was strategy. When the truth spread, the community was devastated. Not just financially, emotionally. Because betrayal from someone trusted deeply creates a special kind of pain. People started questioning themselves. How did we miss this? How could we be so blind? Were any of her emotions real? Margaret stopped speaking to people for weeks. Not because of the money, but because humiliation hurt more. Adults over 40 often struggle deeply with betrayal because they believe life experience should protect them from deception. But deception becomes more sophisticated with age. Manipulators learn psychology, emotional weaknesses, human loneliness, and many people mistake emotional intelligence for genuine kindness. That confusion destroys lives. Sophia eventually disappeared from the neighborhood quietly. No dramatic goodbye, no apology, just gone, leaving behind emotional destruction everywhere she had built trust. And that's another hard truth. Some people don't feel guilt the way normal people do. They feel regret only when consequences arrive. If you are over 40 watching this, listen carefully. One of the most dangerous beliefs adults develop is this: I'm too experienced to be manipulated. That mindset creates vulnerability, because manipulation is no longer just obvious lies. Modern manipulators use charm, attention, emotional validation, fake empathy, carefully controlled kindness. And many people become vulnerable during emotional seasons. Loneliness, divorce, retirement, grief, financial stress, health problems. That's when dangerous people quietly enter lives. Not everyone who helps you is helping you for the right reason. Not everyone who compliments you respects you. Not everyone who smiles at you deserves access to your trust. Because trust is valuable, and once given to the wrong person, the consequences can last for years. Another painful truth. People often ignore intuition because they don't want to appear rude. They silence their discomfort, dismiss red flags, explain away suspicious behavior, especially when the person looks harmless. But instincts exist for a reason. Sometimes your spirit notices danger before your mind accepts it, and adults who survive difficult life experiences usually learn one thing: character matters more than appearance. Always, beauty can hide selfishness, charm can hide manipulation, confidence can hide deception. Not everything that glitters is gold, and some of the most dangerous people in life look completely harmless at first glance. Months later, the neighborhood slowly recovered, but trust never fully returned. People became more guarded, more cautious, more observant. Margaret eventually admitted something painful. The signs were there. she said quietly. I just didn't want to believe them. That sentence carries a life lesson many people learn too late. Sometimes we ignore truth because accepting it feels emotionally uncomfortable. But ignored truth eventually becomes painful reality. And emotional blindness can cost people financially, mentally, and spiritually. So if you're watching this today, remember this carefully. A beautiful face means nothing without good character. Kind words mean nothing without honest intentions. And trust should never be given simply because someone appears charming. Watch patterns, watch consistency, watch how people behave when they gain access to your trust. Because manipulation rarely begins with cruelty. It begins with comfort, with compliments, with emotional connection, with carefully designed trust. And by the time many people recognize danger, they are already emotionally attached. Protect your peace, protect your finances, protect your emotional well-being, and, most importantly, protect your trust. Because some people don't enter your life to love you, they enter your life to use you, and the older we become, the more expensive the wrong trust can be. If this story taught you something valuable, remember this lesson. Not everything beautiful is safe, and not everyone kind is genuine. Sometimes, the people who look the most trustworthy are hiding the darkest secrets. If you enjoyed this dark confession story and want more powerful life lessons about manipulation, betrayal, human behavior, and hidden truths, subscribe to the channel and tell us in the comments, have you ever trusted someone who completely fooled you? See you in the next story.